everyone, so for today's video I wanted to do all the books that I've read in the past month or two. I feel like everyone's always looking for new books, like either on BookTok, TikTok, or BookTok, Bookstagram, all of that. So I thought I would share the books that I have read in the past couple of months and share which ones I think are worth it and which ones I don't think are worth it. Ignore the background noise. I'm going to try to record. That's not going on, but I literally have trees being cut down in my backyard. So this is one of the first days. It's been super nice out. It is Thursday, I think August 13th or something like that, and it's beautiful out. And I was sitting outside reading before the book that I'm reading right now, but of course there's people cutting down my trees on the nicest day of the year so far. So I had to come inside and I was like, why not make a book video? This is the perfect timing. So I'm going to go through the books that I've read over the past 2-ish months and tell you which ones are worth it and which ones I don't think are worth it. So for the first book, we have Icebreaker. This book was really, really hyped up. In the beginning, I think when it first started to become really popular, and I read this one over vacation about 2 months ago, and I really enjoyed it. It was a book that you get really invested in really quickly, and the characters are just so cute together. It is a hockey romance book, so if you like sports romance, I would definitely pick this one up. The hype, for me, I feel like when books are super hyped up, I don't end up loving them as much as I wish I did. This one I ended up giving a 4-star. It was either 4 or 4.5 star, but it wasn't that 5-star feeling for me. But a lot of people get that 5-star feeling with this book, so if you are into a sports romance, if you're into a cutesy little romance book, then I would definitely pick this one up because this was a really popular book and a lot of people did end up liking it. There are a couple of twists and turns in it, which I also like. And yeah, overall it was a good read. It just wasn't my favorite. It didn't give me that oh my god feeling that everyone said it gave you. But that's just my opinion. So it might do that for you. It just didn't do that for me. So this one wasn't a 5-star, but it was pretty close. The next one is You Will Be Mine. This one, I actually went to Barnes & Noble with my boyfriend and he picked this one out for me because I wanted to read a thriller and I was like, I feel like it'd be fun if you pick out a book for me. So he picked out this one. It actually seems really interesting. When I read the back, I was like, ooh, that actually sounds like it'd be really good. This book was super, gory, I guess I would say. Gave a lot of detail that I wasn't expecting. This is the one and only book that I would really say look up trigger warnings before, because if you're not into the gory or bloody type of stuff, then this book is not for you at all. I thought it was just gonna be a thriller that isn't super intense, but this one jumps right into the gory stuff, which I didn't really love. There was a plot twist that I wasn't expecting and honestly made it a little bit better. I think that upped the rankings, but this isn't a super popular book that I think is bad. I think it's just a book that nobody really knows about, which I think is not that good. I think I ended up giving a 2.5 star, which is one of the lowest things I've ever rated. So in other words, to me, not really worth it. The next one we have is ACOTAR. This one's going to be very controversial because I was not a fan of this book, and I know a lot of people are. This was my first fantasy book ever, so I didn't really know what to expect. I'm more of a romance person, I think, than I am a fantasy person, so I can't really say, judging on my opinion, that it's a accurate opinion, I guess, because I'm not really into that whole fantasy book world. If you're jumping into fantasy for the first time, which I did, I feel like it's just 50-50. If you want to read this book because it's super hyped up, I would give it a try. But to me, it wasn't my favorite jumping into fantasy for the first time. For me, this just wasn't worth it. I heard the other ones were a lot better, but this one kind of turned me off to wanting to read the other ones, but I'm still going to read them because I do want to like the series, because the series is talked about so highly. The next one is a series. We have The Stopover and The Takeover. The Stopover was sent to me. I think I had it on my wish list and it was sent to me. It was not a book that I was super excited about. This is also not a super popular book at the moment, but it wasn't a book I was dying to read because I didn't see it anywhere. But once I got it, I was like, oh my god, this book is so good. Very, very, very spicy. So if you're not into that, don't get this book. But other than that, this book is probably one of my favorites I've never finished a series before, and it's really hard for me to like go from the first one and jump right into the second one, but I did with this series because I loved this one so much that I jumped straight into the second one. But this one's very interesting, super spicy. It's like a boss and his employee kind of vibe. But yeah, this book was really good. I think this is more of like a younger crowd read, which I liked because I liked when like the characters relate to me or like are around my age, because I get into the book more because I feel like this could like be me in this position, if that makes any sense. But this one, Takeover, this is about an older couple. There's like kids involved and everything, so like I wasn't super into it because I feel like I couldn't relate. It was a good story, just not something that I relate to, so it wasn't my favorite. But this one was my favorite out of these two. There also is one more that I wanted to start reading, but I didn't get into it because this one kind of threw me off the series afterwards. So I will eventually get into it, but not yet. The next one I actually don't have, but I'll put a picture of it like somewhere on the screen, is Say You Swear. This book is super, super hyped up right now, or it was like a month ago. I think it is still pretty hyped up, just not as much as it was. Definitely worth the hype. Like, this is the one book that I have ever said is worth the hype because, like I said, very hyped up books is hard for me to get into and love as much as other people do, but Say You Swear is the exception because that book is so good and will ever have a touch of my heart. This book probably has the best book boyfriend that I've ever read about. That is probably one of the main reasons why I love this book so much, was because of the main boy character. So if you haven't read that one yet and you're into romance, you're into sports romance, read this book, please. It's so good. The next book I also don't have a copy of, but I'll put a picture, is Everything I Know About Love. So this one is different from the books that I've ever read before. This is more like a memoir about Dolly's life and relationships and friendships and like kind of just like the obstacle of getting through life as a girl in your 20s. And it's just like so relatable, which is why I found this book so interesting. I think I wanted more at the end. Like, I didn't give it a 5 star. I think it was like a 3.5 star. I definitely wanted more than I was given, but it was super interesting to like read about her life, because being in my 20s right now, it's like so relatable to go through that like part of your life where you like don't know what you're doing. And she goes through the motions of talking to you about losing friendships and losing loves and kind of just being like a 20-year-old person who has no idea what they're doing. So if you're into like the more relatable reads and you're around your 20s or 30s, like this is definitely a good book to read. The next book that I most recently read is Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. This one is honestly probably one of the least of my favorites of Colleen Hoover books because it didn't give me that like, oh my god, shocking event that usually happens in her books. There was an event that you're like, oh my god, but I feel like that mostly happens in the beginning, and the one at the end is just like but it didn't give me that like Colleen Hoover plot twist. It seemed just like a little different than her other books. And this one was mostly about like a mother-daughter bond more than like a relationship, which it was nice to read something a little different, but like I was expecting more from like Colleen Hoover. In my opinion, this was not worth the hype, especially over other Colleen Hoover books. This is probably one of my least favorites. So yeah, also there was one thing that I wish happened in this book which would have made it so much better. If you know, you know. Last one is Once Upon a Broken Heart. I'm actually reading this one right now. I have less than 100 pages left, probably like around 50, and I'm loving it. It's a fantasy book, so if you have been looking for a fantasy book, this one's like, I think, starting to get super popular right now. I saw Sarah Corelli read this book, and ever since then I've been wanting to get it because she said it was like kind of a twist on a Cinderella story. But this one is so good. I'm gonna finish it today, so I read it in like 3-4 days and I loved it. If you are new to fantasy, want to get into a fantasy book, I would 100% recommend this book. I'm probably gonna give it like 4.5 or 5 stars depending on how the ending turns out, but this is what I'm currently reading right now. So that is all of the books that I've read in the past month or two. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope this video helped you decide what book you want to read next, or put some of these on your TBR or wish list for the future. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.